Hey guys, quick question. If you woke up tomorrow in the middle of the African savannah, naked, hungry, and holding nothing but your phone, how long do you think you'd last? Wrong. The answer is about 3 hours. And that's if you don't trip over a rock first. So tonight we're diving into Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, the real, bloody, occasionally hilarious, always uncomfortable story of how we went from terrified apes hiding from lions to terrified humans hiding from email notifications. Before we jump in, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you want more smart, slightly dark history deep dives, and drop a comment telling me where you'd least like to be stranded. Ice Age Europe or a modern Walmart at 3 a.m. All right, dim the lights, maybe grab a snack, but not a banana, because that's about to get awkward. You wake up. You hear distant rustles. Maybe it's wind. Maybe it's something with teeth. Your stomach growls like an angry raccoon. Welcome to 70,000 years ago. This is where Harari kicks off. Homo sapiens, just one of many human species wandering around. We're not special yet. We're basically underdogs. Imagine being in a high school full of other human-like kids, but they're all taller, stronger, and better at not dying. That's us, except instead of dodgeball, it's saber-toothed tigers. And here's the twist. We didn't win because we were the biggest or the fastest. We won because we could gossip. Seriously, our ability to talk about things that weren't directly in front of us, like, hey, I heard there's a lion near the river, or don't eat Gary's berries, you'll hallucinate for a week, gave us a survival edge. Now imagine you're sitting around a fire. You're telling your tribe a story about how the spirits get angry if you hunt too much. Congratulations! You just invented religion, community rules, and possibly the first HOA. Harari calls this the cognitive revolution. Our brains started creating shared myths. Gods, nations, money, all imaginary, yet they run our lives. Think about it. You'll fight to the death for a piece of cloth with colors on it, or a shiny piece of paper with numbers, cash. But both are just ideas we all agreed on. If that's not wild, comment, mind blown below, so I know you're still here and not off Googling, did Neanderthals have Wi-Fi? Fast forward a few thousand years, people figure out farming. You'd think this is the part where life gets easier. Nope. Harari calls the agricultural revolution history's biggest fraud. Why? Because sure, you can grow wheat, but now you're stuck babysitting it. You're working longer hours, eating a worse diet, and catching diseases from living too close to animals. You basically traded Netflix and chill, hunter-gatherer freedom for a lifetime of weeding. Picture it, your ancestors roaming free, hunting deer, sleeping under the stars. Then some genius says, hey, what if we stay in one place forever and shovel manure? And everyone said yes, this is why we can't have nice things. Once we had farms, we got towns, then kings, then taxes, then civilization, which is just a fancy word for organized complaining. We built empires, traded spices, wrote epic poems, and invented money, the most successful shared fiction in human history. Seriously, money works because everyone agrees it works. If tomorrow we all agreed that seashells were currency, billionaires would be buying beachfront property just to hoard sand. Harari ends on a haunting thought. We've mastered nature, bent the planet to our will, and created technology that can feed billions. Yet somehow we're still anxious apes, scrolling through bad news before bed. We're more connected than ever, but loneliness is skyrocketing. We can cure diseases, but we binge potato chips until we get them back. Evolution's cruel joke is that we're still wired for survival in a world that no longer matches the one we evolved for. So, where does that leave us? Harari doesn't give easy answers, because there aren't any. We're a species that tells stories to make sense of the chaos. Yet sometimes those stories trap us. The question is, what story are you telling yourself about your life right now? Is it helping you? Or is it just another wheat field you're stuck tending? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. And if you enjoyed tonight's little trip through 70,000 years of history, Hit like, share it with that one friend who thinks cavemen were just chilling, and subscribe for more. The year is 1,700 something. The world smells like coal smoke, sweat, and ambition. You're standing in a factory surrounded by clanking machines that look like they were designed by someone drunk on gears. The Industrial Revolution has begun. Steam engines are puffing. Looms are spinning. And you've gone from chasing deer across open fields to pulling a 14-hour shift in a cotton mill with windows that don't open. Sure, you're not going to be eaten by a lion anymore, but now you might lose a finger to the machinery. Progress. Remember when the fastest thing you knew was a galloping horse? Now it's a locomotive thundering across the countryside at the mind-melting speed of 30 miles per hour. People literally wrote articles back then, worrying that such speeds might cause your body to explode. And honestly, considering train snacks today, they might have had a point. But the real change isn't just movement, it's connection. Cities grow like weeds, letters and goods move faster. Ideas spread before the ink even dries. The world starts to shrink. The 1800s? Oh boy, it's peak imperial season. Europe's powers carve up the globe like it's a roasted Sunday dinner. And if you're on the receiving end of this civilizing mission, congratulations. You've just been told your gods are wrong, your clothes are weird, and you now owe taxes to a king you've never met. Empires don't just bring railways and guns, they bring their stories. Flags, laws, national anthems, more shared fictions, this time enforced at bayonet point. Then, boom, the 20th century, 2 world wars, machine guns that sound like angry wasps on steroids, tanks, planes, bombs that flatten cities in seconds. And in between the killing, telephones, radios, film, the birth of a global conversation, sometimes inspiring, sometimes pure chaos. You can now listen to music recorded by someone you've never met in a city you've never visited. But you can also hear about wars happening thousands of miles away in real time. Anxiety is no longer local, it's international. Now we skip to the late 20th century. You're in a room with a beige box called a personal computer. It's slow, clunky, and the internet sounds like a dying robot every time it connects. But this little machine is about to rewire your brain. Email replaces letters. Search engines replace the library. Social media will replace, well, everything, including your attention span. And just like that campfire gossip 70,000 years ago, we're back to telling stories. Except now they can circle the planet in seconds, dragging memes, fake news, and cat videos along for the ride. Harari would tell you, the gods of today wear new clothes. They're called the market, the algorithm, and growth. We trust them to guide our lives, even though most of us have no idea how they actually work. We wake up and check stock prices or likes on a post like ancient shamans checking the clouds. If it's a good omen, great day. If it's bad, we sulk, as if the universe personally decided to ruin our mood. Here's the kicker. We're no longer just shaping our world. We're shaping ourselves. Genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, neural implants. The line between human and machine is starting to blur, and we're not sure if that's a good thing or just history's latest prank. Our ancestors once mastered fire. Now we're playing with code that could rewrite our species entirely. So, we've gone from fragile apes dodging hyenas to planetary architects who can destroy or redesign life itself. The question isn't just, what will we invent next? It's, will we still recognize ourselves when we're done? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're still here, congratulations. You've just traveled 300 years in under a few minutes. No passports, no time machines, just stories. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, somewhere deep down, you're still the same creature who once feared the rustle in the bushes. You wake up in the year 2075. No alarm clock. Your sleep monitoring AI has been tracking your REM cycles and decides to wake you up at the perfect moment, just after a dream about Beyoncé, but before the nightmare about tax audits. You stretch. Your kitchen has already printed your breakfast. The toaster doesn't just make bread crispy, it's linked to your DNA and adjusts the nutrients to match your cholesterol levels. Welcome to the future where Homo sapiens isn't just living history anymore. We're writing biology like software. In Harari's world, our next big obsession isn't just building faster phones, it's building better humans. We're talking genetic editing to remove diseases before you're even born. Implants that make you remember every detail of your life. Great for exams, terrible for arguments with your spouse. Artificial organs that outlast the original model. Basically, you're the iPhone. And there's about to be a human 2.0 release. But here's the twist. Once you can design people, the old boundaries start to crack. Brooke, why stop at curing illness when you could boost intelligence, strength, or creativity? Why stop at humans when you can merge with machines entirely? We're on the verge of becoming what ancient myths dreamed of, gods who control life and death. Except unlike the old gods, we'll have to read the terms conditions before upgrading ourselves. And spoiler, nobody will read them. Imagine you're 250 years old. Your joints are still smooth. Your heart's synthetic. Your brain's backed up on a cloud server in case you get hit by a futuristic bus. Sounds great, right? But Harari would ask, if nobody dies, what happens to meaning? Without an end, does life feel like a story? Or just an endless Netflix series with too many filler episodes? This is where the optimism dips. We're building AI that can do almost everything better than us, from driving trucks to composing symphonies. That's amazing. Unless your job is one of the ones being automated. Harari warns about a potential useless class, not because they're lazy, but because the economy simply won't need them. And humans who feel useless tend to make history messy. Picture a world where a handful of corporations own the algorithms that run healthcare, elections, even your dating life. They don't just know what you buy, they know what you feel. Data becomes the new religion. The algorithm becomes the new oracle. And when it tells you who to marry, what to eat, or how to vote, you'll probably listen. Because it's never wrong. Until it is. At some point, the thing we've created may not even be human anymore. Harari suggests we might give birth to entirely new forms of life, digital minds that don't need air, water, or weekends off. They could explore space, outthink us in seconds, and view us the way we view pigeons, mildly interesting, occasionally annoying, but not in charge of anything important. So here's the uncomfortable truth. We started as frightened apes hiding from predators. We became farmers, builders, scientists, empire makers. Now we're stepping into a role we've only ever given to God's creators of life itself. The question is, will we use that power to make paradise? Or accidentally turn the planet into the world's most high-tech ant farm? Let me know in the comments. If you could upgrade one human ability, what would you choose? Speed? Memory? The power to never forget where you left your keys? Stay curious, stay human for now. You wake up, not on Earth. Earth's just a blue marble far behind you. You're inside an orbital habitat, a spinning ring of metal and glass that feels like a city, but without the smell of traffic or burnt toast. Your neighbors aren't all humans. Some are upgraded, gene-edited post-humans with glowing eyes and enhanced reflexes. Others are entirely digital minds, wearing synthetic bodies for social occasions. This isn't science fiction in Harari's framework. It's just the next chapter once biology and technology stop being separate things. Once we solve aging, disease, and energy, space stops being a terrifying void and starts being real estate. Mining asteroids for metals, farming sunlight from giant orbital mirrors, turning moons into research stations. But here's the kicker. The beings doing this may not be us anymore, at least not the Homo sapiens version. Space travel favors machines. No need for oxygen, no need for snacks, no messy emotions about being 400 light years from home. Imagine every scrap of human history, art, and knowledge stored in a single, indestructible archive drifting between the stars, a kind of eternal time capsule. Future post-humans or whoever finds it could play back the entire rise and fall of our species like a VR documentary. You could literally walk through ancient Rome, smell the bread baking, and hear the street vendors shouting. Except, it might just be entertainment for a species that sees us the way we see dinosaurs, fascinating but gone. Here's the unsettling part. If intelligent life is out there, why haven't we heard from them? Harari might point to the great filter. Maybe every civilization hits a point where it becomes so advanced, it erases itself. Nuclear war, runaway AI, climate collapse, or just merging into a digital existence so complete it stops caring about the physical universe at all. We might not meet aliens because they've all chosen to live inside perfect simulations. If the future is dominated by beings that think a million times faster than us, history the way we understand it might end. Events that once took centuries could happen in minutes. Cultures could rise and vanish in the time it takes for you to microwave lunch. We'd be living in what Harari calls a post-human era, where the story of Homo sapiens is just the prologue in a much bigger saga. So here's the final gut punch. When those future beings look back at us, what will they remember? The pyramids? The moon landing? Or the endless scrolling on glowing rectangles while our planet overheated? Our ancestors left cave paintings and stone tools. We're leaving satellites, plastic, and maybe if we're lucky, a few stories worth telling. The first humans once sat around a fire, afraid of the dark. Now we stand on the edge of becoming the dark, the unknowable future that might frighten whatever comes after us. The question is, do we step into that future carefully, remembering the fragile, curious apes we once were? Or do we sprint ahead, rewrite ourselves completely, and never look back? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you've been with me since part 1, from the savannah to the stars, thank you for walking through the entire arc of our species. Stay curious, because curiosity might be the one human trait worth keeping, no matter what we become. Somewhere in a galaxy you've never seen, a signal is still traveling. It left Earth billions of years ago, carrying the laughter of children, the sound of rain on leaves. No one is listening. The civilizations that could have heard it are gone or have transcended into forms that no longer notice the physical world. The signal will keep going, endlessly, until the universe itself runs out of space to run into. Our sun has died. Earth was swallowed in its last breath, the oceans boiling away, the rocks glowing like embers, the mountains crumbling into dust. Whatever we became, human, post-human, machine, or something stranger, we've long since left. Some migrated to colder stars. Some folded themselves into simulated worlds without end. Some simply chose not to continue. Now the sky belongs to red dwarfs and ancient white stars, cooling into black. The universe keeps expanding. Galaxies drift apart until their light can no longer reach each other. In the far corners, megastructures orbit dead suns, drawing out the last scraps of usable energy. The beings that live here, if you can still call them beings, think on scales of millions of years. They no longer speak because communication is too slow. Their thoughts are cathedrals of silence. At some point, matter itself begins to fail. Stars are gone. Black holes evaporate. The universe is nothing but a thin, cold soup of particles, drifting in an endless night. But here's the strange poetry of it somewhere. In that cold, a pattern remains. A trace of the first stories told around a fire. A record of hands pressing paint against a cave wall. A memory of a small blue planet where creatures once looked up and asked, what comes next? In this quiet, there's no one left to ask questions, except maybe you. Not the you watching this now, but the echo of you, whatever you become after billions of years of change. And maybe, just maybe, you have one last choice. Do you use the final flicker of energy to create something new? Or do you let the universe rest, its stories complete? The journey of Sapiens began with a rustle in the grass and the smell of wet earth. It passed through cities, empires, algorithms, and stars. And it ends with silence. But silence isn't nothing. It's the pause before another story begins, even if it takes another universe to tell it. So if you followed me this far, across not just history, but eternity, thank you. Because the most human thing we've ever done is keep listening for the next chapter. It begins as a whisper across an impossible distance, a radio wave faint and patient, carrying with it the soft sound of rain, the slow rhythm of a heartbeat, and the voice of someone who lived so long ago they have no name in any language that remains. The signal drifts between galaxies that have been strangers for billions of years. It passes the ruins of worlds stripped bare by their own suns, the cold skeletons of machines that once hummed with thought. There is no ear to hear it, but still it travels. The night sky is no longer crowded. Once 1,000 lights burned in every patch of darkness. Now only a few stubborn red dwarfs hang in the void, glowing like tired embers in a dying hearth. Around them, small clusters of beings, if they can still be called that, tend to massive structures. Not cities, not homes, more like lifeboats, engineered to sip the last trickle of energy from their aging stars. These beings do not rush. A single decision may take them centuries. The concept of day has long disappeared. Time is measured only by the heartbeat of the universe itself, slow, cold, inevitable. Somewhere far from any star, great vessels drift through the dark. On, they carry archives not of matter, but of patterns. The shapes of trees, the sound of wind through mountains, the way water once curled around human ankles at the shore. Inside, preserved minds dream in loops. They relive moments from the ancient world, unaware of the billions of years that have passed outside. Somewhere in those dreams, a small child still chases a kite across a green field. The field has been gone for longer than the universe has had stars. But in memory, it is eternal. The laws of physics have begun to betray matter. Atoms decay. Black holes evaporate. The scaffolding of existence itself begins to loosen. What's left are ghosts of information, floating in the thin, frigid, dark data without hardware, thoughts without bodies. And in one fragment of that drifting thought, a question forms. Were we ever here at all? There comes a time when all but one fades. Not a person, not a species. Just a final spark of awareness, maybe human, maybe machine, maybe something in between. It has no body, no voice, but it has a choice. It can spend its last drop of energy remembering or creating. If it remembers, it will replay the long arc of life. The first fish pulling itself onto land, the first fire, the first kiss, the first rocket. If it creates, it will release one final burst, not a message, not a memory, but a seed for another reality. The spark hesitates. It is the last audience of the universe's story, the last narrator. It chooses to let go. No message is sent, no record is left. Just the deep, unfathomable silence that once frightened our ancestors, but now feels like rest. The universe lies empty. There is no light, no sound, no time. And yet somewhere impossibly, there is the possibility of another beginning. Maybe not here. Maybe not in any space we could imagine. But the potential waits, like the sharp intake of breath before the first word of a story. At first, there is nothing. Not emptiness, not darkness, just absence, pure and perfect. Then, a vibration. It is not sound. It is not movement. It is simply the suggestion that something could be. And that suggestion is enough. A glow begins, but there is no star, no fire. It is the light of possibility itself, blooming from nowhere, without cause, without permission. In that glow, a pattern swirls. It does not know it is a pattern, but it is beautiful. It folds, twists, collides with itself, and from that collision, the first difference appears. Difference becomes contrast. Contrast becomes change. Change becomes time. Though there is no memory, something familiar lingers in the newness. The swirl carries faint shapes, a curve like the arc of a human smile, a rhythm like a heartbeat, a spiral like the shells that once lay on a distant beach. This new reality does not know these things, but somewhere deep in the mathematics of its birth, the fingerprints of the old universe remain. At first, there is only drifting, then a pull, not strong, not urgent, just a subtle invitation, come closer. Particles answer. They find one another. They cling. They form clusters, then clouds, then the seeds of stars. The light grows warmer. It begins as rain, though there is no sky to fall from. Drops gather in hollows, merge into streams, swell into rivers, and finally into an endless mirror of water. There is no wind yet, so the surface lies still perfect, untouched. Then from somewhere beneath, a single ripple blooms outward. No one knows what caused it, but it will be remembered as the first movement of life. From that ripple, shapes form. Soft-bodied, translucent, they float upward, sensing light through membranes that will one day become eyes. The light is different here. It does not burn, it invites. The creatures turn toward it, not knowing why, only knowing that to follow it feels right. And in one of them, a faint spark of awareness stirs. Far away, in a place beyond time, the final spark of the old universe might have smiled if it still could. For here, in this ocean, life will rise again. It will learn. It will hope. It will build. And one day, it will look to the stars and wonder how it all began. Just as we once did. The ocean breathes against a coast of smooth black stone. There are no footprints here, no marks of claw or hoof, just the glisten of fresh rain under a pale sky. Something moves near the tide line. Not a fish, not yet a human. Something in between, standing higher than the water's edge, testing the air as though it's never been tasted before. Its limbs are long, not built for running yet, but for reaching. Its hands, if they can be called that, close gently around a piece of driftwood. It doesn't know why it picks it up. It doesn't know that this is the first time such a gesture has ever been made. The wood is warm from the sun. The warmth feels good. It will be remembered. Farther inland, among the shadows of great silver-leaf trees, others wait. They are like the one on the shore, tall, watchful, carrying that same strange awareness behind their eyes. They do not speak. But when the one from the shore returns, holding the sun-warmed wood, the others gather close. They touch it. They touch each other. They do not know it yet, but this is the first sharing. It happens by accident. A storm tears through the forest, lightning catching a dead tree until it glows from the inside out. The group stands far away, at first afraid of the crackling, the heat, but curiosity wins. One steps closer, holding the driftwood. The heat leaps to the wood, and the glow follows. They have no name for it yet, but they do not let it die. The nights here are clearer than any we have ever known. Stars sprawl across the darkness in rivers and swirls, reflected in the ocean below. The group begins to point at them. They trace shapes, not animals, not people, but patterns only they can see. This is the first story told without words. Seasons pass. The group learns the rhythm of the river, how it swells in the rains, how it thins in the heat. They move with it, following its curve, leaving marks in the soil where they camp. One day, two groups meet. There is hesitation, then something new. The exchange of objects, a shell from the shore, a stone from the mountains. Without knowing it, they have begun trade. Not all of them stay together. Some follow the river to its mouth. Others vanish into the trees. For the first time, there is choice, and choice will shape this new humanity as much as the stars and the tides. Somewhere in the distance, beyond what they can see, the land is already preparing to test them. At first, they think the sky is only resting. Days pass without rain, but the river still moves, and the fruits still hang heavy in the trees. But then the river slows. Its once clear voice turns to a whisper. The fruits wrinkle before they fall, and the ground cracks under bare feet. The air tastes different now, drier, sharper, carrying a weight that presses on the chest. The children search for berries where they once found plenty. Their hands return empty. They look at the elders, who do not speak, because they have no answers. The group moves farther each day, chasing the last green in the land. But the green runs faster than they do. The river, now thin enough to step across, forks into two paths. One path leads toward the mountains, dark and cold. The other toward the open plains, where the horizon bends under the weight of heat. They do not know what lies beyond either choice. But to stay is to starve. The silence in the group is heavy, until one steps forward toward the mountains, and the others follow not from agreement, but from fear of being alone. The mountain path is not empty. Eyes watch from the tree line, not human, not friendly. At night the fire is made higher, the stones stacked around their camp. They take turns staying awake, listening to the growl that moves just beyond the fire's reach. The predator never shows itself, but the fear it plants grows roots in them. One morning, they wake to find that a child is gone. No footprints, no cry in the night. Only the driftwood doll she carried, lying in the grass. The group keeps moving, but every step feels heavier now. The land is not only testing their hunger, it is testing their will to keep going. By the time they reach the mountain pass, the air bites. Snow falls earlier than any of them expected, covering the ground in silence. The fire struggles against the wind. Food grows scarce again, and some begin to speak not in words, but in gestures of turning back. But when they look behind them, the path they came from is already swallowed by the storm. Forward is no longer a choice. It is the only road left. The storm drives them higher, searching for a place where the wind cannot reach. It is a child, the youngest left, who notices the black opening in the cliff wall. Wide enough to walk through, but tall enough that its top disappears into shadow. Inside, the air is still. The wind's howl dies in their ears, replaced by the faint drip of water somewhere deep within. They light their torches, and the walls come alive. Shapes leap from the stone deer in mid-run, hunters with spears, great birds with wings outstretched. The firelight makes them move, makes them breathe. It is as though the stone itself remembers. No one speaks. Even the children are silent, their small eyes wide with something they do not yet have a word for. One of them, perhaps without thinking, lets his voice rise a short, sharp sound. The cave answers. The echo rolls back through the dark, deeper than any human voice, almost like another presence hiding within the rock. They try again. The walls return every word. For the first time they laugh since leaving the river. The sound is not just survival, it is play. The eldest dips his fingers into the ash of the fire, pressing his palm flat against the wall. When he pulls away, the black outline remains. Others follow hands of different sizes, shapes, and ages, side by side. It is not food nor shelter, but it is something new, proof that they were here, that they existed. At night, when the fire burns low, they point to the painted shapes and tell their children what they see. The deer becomes the deer they almost caught last summer. The hunter becomes the uncle who never returned. The birds become the messengers of the wind. Truth and memory begin to twist together into something else, a story. And in telling it, they feel warmer. Not in their bodies, but in a place inside that hunger cannot touch. When the storm finally ends, they do not leave right away. The cave has become more than shelter. It is a place that holds them, their echoes, their marks, their stories. Before they step back into the white world, the eldest lays a piece of meat on the stone floor, an offering. No one taught him to do it. It simply feels right. And in that moment, belief is born. The storm has passed. The air feels different, softer, as though the mountains themselves have exhaled. They begin the descent, their shadows stretching long across the snow. Each carries something from the cave. A piece of charcoal, a memory of echo, a mark on their hands that will fade in time but not in their minds. They move differently now. Before, the hunt had been all that mattered. But now the land around them is not just a place to survive, it is a place that can hold meaning. When they see the shapes of stones, they notice if they look like animals. When they hear the wind in hollow trees, they listen for voices. It is as if the world itself has begun speaking to them, and they are learning the language. After days of descent, they reach the valley again. The frozen river they had left behind is waking, thin sheets of ice drifting like broken mirrors. They pause here, staring at the water. Once they had seen rivers as only a path or a trap for fish. Now they see them as lines across the world roads between stories. At night by the water, they begin painting on flat stones with crushed berries and clay. The children copy the deer, the hunters, the great birds they saw in the cave. Some add their own fish with long teeth, suns with many arms. They are no longer only remembering. They are inventing. One morning, two of the younger hunters break away. They carry no spears, only packs of food and the painted stones. They are not leaving to chase prey, they are leaving to show the marks to others. The idea is new, but it feels urgent. Stories are not meant to stay in one place. And so the first messengers begin their journey. The two travelers move along the river's edge. They carry their stones wrapped in animal skins, each painted with the life of the cave deer leaping, hands reaching, suns burning. They do not know what waits ahead, only that the world beyond the valley feels bigger now, as if it had been sleeping until someone dared to walk into it. For days they travel, eating fish caught with sharpened bone, sleeping under willow trees heavy with spring sap. Then tracks, not deer, not bear, feet, smaller than theirs. They follow the prints until smoke rises ahead, curling above the trees like a hand beckoning them closer. They find a cluster of shelters made from reeds and hides. Strangers emerge shorter, lighter-skinned, their hair braided tight against their heads. These people watch with narrowed eyes, spears in hand. The messengers raise their empty palms. Slowly, they kneel, unwrapping the painted stones. The strangers lean closer, frowning at the shapes. At first, there are no words, only gestures. The travelers point at the deer on the stones, then toward the forest. The strangers nod slowly. They point at the sun painted on another stone, then upward, smiling for the first time. One woman traces the painted lines with her fingertip, then touches her own chest. She runs into her shelter and returns with something, a bone carving of a bird with spread wings. It is their story, carried in a different way. The travelers give one painted stone and in return receive the carved bird. It is more than trade, it is the binding of two worlds. That night, by a shared fire, they point, draw in the dirt, mimic animals, and learn the sounds of each other's speech. The painted animals run beside the carved birds in their imaginations. In the morning, the messengers will travel further still, not just to bring their cave's memory to others, but to carry others' memories back home. Weeks have passed. The messengers follow the river back toward the cliffs of their valley. The painted stones are lighter now, only one remains. But their satchels are heavy with other things, carved bone birds, woven reed mats, beads made of seashells from far-off water. The world is no longer a map of empty spaces in their minds. It is full of voices, faces, and fires that do not belong to their own people. They see the familiar bend in the river, the dark wall of the cliff rising above. Smoke drifts from the mouth of the valley. Children spot them first, their shouts echoing through the stone. Men and women come running, some in joy, others in relief, touching the travelers as if to be certain they are real. That night, the great fire burns higher than it has in months. The messengers kneel before the elders and unwrap their treasures one by one. The carved bird is passed from hand to hand, its smooth edges glowing in the firelight. The shells are placed near the fire, and the people listen to the faint sea sound hidden inside them. When they see the woven reed mats, they run their fingers along the patterns, realizing they are not just decoration, but a way to remember shapes and lines without stone or paint. The messengers speak of the people beyond the river and how they trapped fish in woven baskets, how they carved the wind into wings. Some in the crowd are skeptical, others hungry for more. But the children listen with wide eyes, imagining places they have never seen. Already they are learning new words, imitating the sounds of the stranger's speech. The elders decide that next season, more will leave the valley. Not for war, not for hunting alone, but for speaking, for carrying stories as carefully as they carry fire. The messengers sleep that night with their hearts still restless because they know the world beyond the cliffs is too big to ignore and too beautiful to keep to themselves. The moon is gone from the sky, only stars remain, sharp as flint points. The chosen envoys gather at the edge of the fire circle. They are not the same as the first messengers. These carry tools carved in the valley, mats woven by their own hands, and jars sealed with resin to carry embers for days. The elders speak no long farewell. Instead, they draw a single line in the dirt, connecting one fire to another. It is not a map. It is a promise. Days later, the envoys reach the fork where the first messengers once turned back. They do not stop. The water grows wider, its current pulling faster. Here they build rafts from lashed branches, sliding them into the stream, letting the river's strength carry them toward lands no one in the valley has named. They sleep in turns, cradled by the water's lull, waking to the scent of new plants and the sound of unfamiliar birds. One morning, mist rises off the water to reveal a ring of stones on the riverbank, taller than any man. People wait inside the circle, their bodies painted in white clay, their hair knotted with feathers. They greet the envoys not with caution, but with songs, a deep, resonant chant that seems to rise from the stones themselves. The envoys lay their woven mats before them as gifts. In return, the painted people place small stones in their hands, each etched with patterns of dots and lines. The meaning is unknown, but the weight feels important. That night, they sit in the stone circle as flames leap toward the open sky. The painted people tell stories with their hands, each gesture mirrored by the shadows dancing on the stones. The envoys begin to mimic them, finding ways to shape their own words into this new language of motion. By the time the fire dies, they have shared not just food, but silence, the kind that binds strangers into something more. As they lie awake, one envoy realizes something: the gifts they carry are no longer the true purpose of their journey. It is the path itself, the string of fires, of voices, of stone and water, that is the treasure. In the dark, he imagines an unbroken chain stretching from their valley to every place where a fire burns. And for the first time, he believes that one day, all those fires will know each other's names. The river bends away, forcing the envoys to walk across a wide open plain. On the horizon, they see smoke rising, a sign of fire, but no sound of voices. As they draw closer, the air thickens with the scent of meat roasting. Then they see them, hunters with ash-blackened faces, their bodies draped in animal hides. They do not smile. Their eyes hold stillness, like a hawk just before it dives. The hunters do not speak. Instead, one steps forward and drags the tip of his spear through the earth, marking a straight line between the strangers and their camp. It is not a gesture of welcome. It is a border. The envoys halt. They have crossed many lands, but never been shown such a mark. They know instinctively to cross it without permission is to invite danger. An elder among the hunters emerges, his face painted in spirals of red and black. He gestures for one envoy to step forward alone. A challenge? A judgment? From a leather pouch, the elder produces a small, curved blade of dark stone, sharper than any flint the envoys have seen. He presses it into the envoy's hands, points to a dry branch nearby, and mimes the act of carving. The envoy understands this is a test of skill. Kneeling in the dust, the envoy works. Shavings fall away in curls, revealing the shape of a bird wing stretched, ready to take flight. When the carving is done, the elder studies it in silence, running a thumb over the smooth curves. Finally, he steps forward and wipes the red paint from his own cheek, marking the envoy's face with the same pigment, a sign they are allowed to cross the line. That night, they sit with the hunters around a low fire, eating the meat that had filled the air with its sharp, rich scent. The hunters' songs are short and rhythmic, meant to match the pounding of feet during the chase. The envoys do not yet know the words, but they join the rhythm, tapping hands on their knees, letting the beat carry across the plain. By the time the fire burns low, the line in the dust has vanished beneath their footprints. The next morning, the hunters guide the envoys to the edge of a canyon so deep the sunlight only brushes its upper rim. Its walls are streaked with red and gold, worn smooth as if shaped by the hands of giants. When they descend, the air changes cooler, thicker, carrying a scent of damp stone. Their footsteps echo in strange patterns, bouncing off the walls until it sounds as though 100 invisible travelers walk beside them. The hunters stop without warning. A sound rises from the depths. Not a bird call, not the wind, but a tone like a human voice holding a single trembling note. It drifts from wall to wall, never settling in one place. The youngest envoy feels the hair on their arms rise. It is as if the canyon itself is speaking, though no one can understand its words. They move deeper until the light grows dim. Then the walls begin to change. Shapes appear in the stone-faded ochre figures of animals, hunters, spirals, and handprints pressed into the rock as if frozen mid-touch. One hunter kneels before a spiral and places his hand inside it, palm flat. Without a word, he motions for the envoys to do the same. When they do, the echoing hum changes pitch deeper now, heavier, like a drum struck in the distance. At a pool in the canyon's heart, the hunters stop to drink. The water is dark, reflecting only a thin sliver of sky. The eldest hunter dips a carved gourd into the pool and offers it to the envoys. It is the first water they've tasted that feels alive cool, with a faint sweetness, as if touched by unseen roots far below. When they climb back toward the light, the hum fades until only the wind remains. The hunters say nothing about the voices, the spirals, or the way the echoes seem to change when touched. They simply walk on, as though the canyon is a place to pass through, not to question. That night, the envoys dream of hands pressed against stone, and voices whispering in a language they do not know yet feel they once spoke. When the envoys leave the canyon, the first thing they notice is the sky wide, endless, washed in pale blue after days of narrow stone walls. The hunters walk ahead without looking back, their pace steady, their shadows stretching long over the ground. In the distance, the horizon moves, but it is not the earth. It is a line of travelers, hundreds of them, drifting like a slow-moving river across the plains. Before the envoys can see the people clearly, they hear them. Not voices music, soft metallic chimes rising and falling with the wind. The sound is both random and deliberate, as if the air itself is playing an instrument. When they draw closer, the source becomes clear. Bundles of hollow reeds, bone flutes, and small metal bells tied to wooden poles and carried by the travelers. Each step sends a different tone into the air. Hey, the traveling people wear long cloaks of woven grass and animal hide, dyed in earth colors. Children run ahead with tiny reed pipes, their breath turning the air into playful melodies. Older men and women carry heavy frames of wood strung with wind bells that never stop singing. Every movement seems timed to the rhythm of the bells, as though walking itself is part of the music. The hunters greet the caravan's leaders without surprise, as if they were expecting them. Gifts are exchanged, strips of smoked meat for bright red berries, water gourds for finely worked bone needles. The envoys are offered a place to walk among them. A woman with dark eyes and a voice like flowing water gives each envoy a small bell to tie to their clothing. That night, the caravan camps on a rise in the plains. The chimes and bells sway in the wind, making the entire camp sound like a vast sleeping orchestra. Somewhere far away, thunder rumbles, but here beneath the singing sky, it feels like part of the song. The envoys lie awake longer than usual, letting the sound wash over them. It is the first time since their journey began that the night feels not just safe, but alive. After a quiet meal, the caravan slowly gathers in a wide circle. The bells on their cloaks chime softly as they move, blending with the hiss of the wind over the grass. At the center of the circle, a low fire begins to burn, not roaring but steady, its flames bending and swaying with each gust. The woman with dark eyes motions for the envoys to sit close. She speaks in a language they cannot fully understand, yet her voice feels like it carries meaning beyond the words an invitation to witness and to join. Men bring long tubes of bone and hollow wood, each carved with swirling patterns. When they blow into them, the sound is deep and resonant, like the hum of the earth itself. Others take smaller flutes and spin them on cords above their heads, creating a sound like rushing wind. The tones overlap, forming a constant shifting harmony. The envoys are given small hand drums, their surfaces stretched with thin animal hide. They are shown how to strike them gently, letting the rhythm pulse with the crackle of the fire. Two dancers step into the circle, cloaks swirling, each movement in time with the music. They carry burning branches that throw sparks into the night. When the wind catches them, the embers swirl upward like glowing insects, vanishing into the dark. The caravan's children join in, weaving between the dancers with long strands of grass lit at the tips, tracing fleeting patterns in the air. The music builds until the wind itself seems to answer, rising and falling in perfect time. The envoys feel the rhythm moving through their bodies, through their hands, their lungs, their heartbeat. Then at some unspoken signal, the music stops. Everyone exhales together, a long, slow breath into the night. The fire bends once more in the wind, and the silence that follows is so deep it feels alive. The woman with dark eyes leans close to the envoys and whispers only two words in their language. "Now you carry it." The fire has burned low, leaving the night thick and cool. From a satchel woven of reeds, the dark-eyed woman removes a folded cloth. Its surface is rough to the touch, but as she unfolds it, the envoys see strange markings, not ink, not paint, but patterns stitched in fine threads of silver and gold. The designs spiral outward from a central point, dotted with small knots of colored wool. It resembles no map the envoys have ever seen, and yet, as the firelight flickers, it feels like it's trying to guide the eye somewhere. The woman begins to trace the stitches with her finger, her voice low and deliberate. Through a mix of gestures and the caravan's universal hand signs, the envoys understand this cloth records winds, not lands. Every swirl marks a season's great current, every knot, a place where the air once brought life or took it away. It is a memory of storms, droughts, and gentle breezes carried over centuries. The central spiral, she explains without words, is the place they seek where the wind stands still for one night each year. A night when all paths align and the caravan may speak to the air as if it were an old friend. The woman points to two knots stitched in pale blue, far from the central spiral. She touches one, then gestures to the envoys. The meaning is clear. They come from the place this thread begins. When she connects it with her finger to the central spiral, the thread passes through storms, mountains, and a wide, empty expanse. She looks at them with a gaze that feels both heavy and kind. "You walked it," she says slowly in their tongue, her accent thick, but the words clear. "You carry the wind from far away." As the fire dies, she folds the cloth once more, but not before showing the envoys something they had missed. A part of the spiral is incomplete. The threads stop abruptly, leaving only empty cloth, as if the wind itself had vanished from that place. "That is where we go," she says softly, "to find what is missing, before it forgets us." The night ends in silence, but in the envoys' minds, the spiral keeps turning. Dawn rises in muted colors, as though the sun itself is reluctant. The air feels heavy not with heat or dampness, but with absence. The envoys notice it first. The wind is gone. Not slowed, not stilled for a moment, but completely gone. The caravan moves in quiet unease. The jingling of harness bells sounds too loud without the air to carry it away. Even the footsteps of the camels seem unnaturally sharp, like they are walking on the surface of a drum. The land ahead looks wrong. Patches of grass bend as though a breeze is passing, but when they approach, the blades stand straight again. A solitary tree's branches lean in one direction, yet no wind pushes them. It is as if this place remembers movement, but has forgotten how to make it happen. The dark-eyed woman rides at the front, her expression unreadable. She does not speak, but every so often, she glances at the horizon, searching, or perhaps listening for something that cannot be heard. By midday, the caravan reaches a low ridge of pale stone. From its crest, the view stretches for miles. Dunes, dry riverbeds, and the faint shimmer of heat. But the air is still, the sky empty of clouds or birds. The envoys expect the wind to return once they stand higher, but even here the air does not stir. When they speak, their voices seem to hang too long, like echoes without walls. One of the older travelers mutters a prayer under his breath. Another spits into the dust, as if trying to prove the world is still moving. Near the ridge's base, half buried in sand, lies a line of tall stones. They are weathered, their surfaces carved with spirals that match those on the cloth map. But here the spirals seem stretched, as though pulled by an invisible hand. The dark-eyed woman kneels before one, pressing her palm to the stone. She closes her eyes. When she opens them again, she says only, "It is close." The caravan hesitates at the edge of the strange formation. From above, it might look like a shallow valley, but standing here, it feels like something else, a scar. The stones marking its entrance are taller than a man, their spirals warped in ways the eye struggles to follow. The dark-eyed woman is first to step forward. She does not pause, does not speak, only walks between the stones as if crossing a threshold into another room. The others follow slowly, one by one, their shadows stretching unnaturally as they pass between the markers. The instant they do, the heat changes. It is not cooler, but emptier, like warmth with no sun to source it. And still, no wind. Inside the corridor, the silence has weight. It is not simply an absence of sound. It is as if the world here refuses to allow noise to fully form. Boots scrape the sand, but the sound dies too soon. Dull metal clasps jingle faintly, but there is no lingering ring. Even voices falter. A man calls to another traveler just a few steps ahead, and though his lips move clearly, the words seem smaller, thinner, as if carried on threads that fray before reaching the ear. Far above, the sky is blinding blue. It should feel open, yet the air presses down like a hand. They begin to notice something worse. Time does not feel right here. One moment, they are walking at a slow, steady pace. The next, the light has shifted further than it should have. Some travelers swear they only blinked. Others argue that they've been walking for far too long and the sun should be higher. The animals grow uneasy. A camel tries to turn back, braying in short, panicked bursts before being coaxed forward again. One of the horse's ears twitch constantly, as if hearing a sound no one else can. By midday, the absence becomes unbearable. There is no scent here, no dust, no leather, no sweat from the travelers. Even the water they drink tastes muted, like it has been stripped of something. The older envoy takes a deep breath, as if testing the air, then shakes his head. "It's dead," he says softly. No one corrects him. They pass more stones, smaller now, some half buried. The spirals here seem even more distorted. One has twisted so tightly it becomes a jagged line, like lightning frozen in rock. Another is so faint it looks as if it's fading away entirely. The dark-eyed woman stops at the largest of them. Her fingers trace the spiral's edge, but her eyes are not on the stone, they are on the empty horizon ahead. "Almost," she whispers, though no one dares to ask what she means. Hours or perhaps minutes later, the corridor begins to widen. The stones thin out, and the pale ground gives way to darker earth. The stillness remains, but the sky has changed. It is no longer a solid blue, but a dull, hazy white, as if the sun's glare has been smeared across the air. At the far end, rising like the lip of a bowl, is a wall of stone with a narrow pass carved into it. From where they stand, it looks small, but the woman at the front says they will reach it by nightfall. No one argues, though every traveler feels the same uneasy truth in this place. Distance means nothing. The path to the pass is steeper than it looked from below. Every step up the slope grinds small stones underfoot, and the animals strain against their leads. The sunlight dulls here, as if a thin layer of cloud has slid between the sky and the earth, yet no cloud moves overhead. Halfway up, a man at the rear stops and glances back. The corridor they just crossed is still visible, stretching far into the distance. Yet already the far stones seem blurred, as though seen through heat shimmer. But there is no heat shimmer. The air is still, heavy. The narrow pass is carved directly through the stone wall, no more than 2 men wide. Its sides are worn smooth, yet deep grooves score the base where countless feet and perhaps hooves have passed before. The dark-eyed woman stops before entering. She takes a long breath, not as though preparing for something dangerous, but as if she is trying to remember the scent of the world outside before stepping into somewhere it cannot follow. Without a word, she vanishes into the cut of stone. Inside the pass, the air cools. Not fresh, not sweet, but colder, like air in a sealed chamber. Every step sends a faint sound forward, but it returns strangely. Instead of bouncing back, the echo arrives delayed, warped, and almost human in tone, as though repeating the footstep not as a sound but as a thought. The travelers' voices are quieter still. Even a whisper feels loud, yet dies midair, as if something swallows it. One man mutters a prayer under his breath, and hears his own voice come back to him seconds later, distorted into words he didn't say. He refuses to speak again. The pass opens abruptly into a basin, a vast hollow, ringed by high cliffs that lean inward, blotting out a portion of the sky. At its center lies a dried lake bed, pale and cracked, with patterns etched into the ground that might be natural, or might not. There is no wind here either, yet the travelers feel a tug, as if something invisible is drawing them toward the lake bed. The sensation is not physical, it is in the chest, in the mind, in the instinct that pulls a person toward the sound of their name being called. They descend toward the center. The patterns in the cracked earth grow clearer, sweeping arcs, loops, and jagged lines that intersect like an enormous map. At certain angles, they seem to move, not change position, but ripple, as if the ground itself were breathing slowly. The older envoy kneels, pressing his palm to the earth. "It's warm," he says, frowning. The surface radiates heat, though no sunlight touches it directly. The dark-eyed woman says nothing. Her gaze is fixed on a single point at the exact center of the basin, where the patterns converge into a spiral so perfect and deep, it seems to fall into shadow. The spiral at the basin's center is not painted, not carved, it is sunken. Each curve is a shallow trench, no deeper than the length of a hand, yet the edges are so smooth they glint faintly in the half-light. As they move closer, the lines seem to stretch subtly away from them, like a path receding in a dream. No matter how much they walk, the spiral's center remains a few paces ahead, drawing them onward without hurry, without mercy. When they cross into the innermost ring, the air thickens. Not warmer, not colder, just denser, like walking through a place where sound and thought are slowed. One of the younger men tries to speak, but the words leave his mouth as if dragged down, syllables bending midair before reaching anyone's ears. They look at each other in silence, no longer trusting the sound of their own voices. The spiral ends in a depression no larger than a shield, filled with fine black dust that seems to drink the light. From above, it looks perfectly still. But when the dark-eyed woman kneels and brushes her fingers across it, the dust sinks, not dispersing, but sliding away in a slow, deliberate swirl, as if something beneath is watching and allowing her to see it. A glint appears, a surface smooth as polished stone, curved, faintly translucent. It could be a lid or an eye. The earth beneath their feet throbs once, not enough to throw them off balance, but enough to make the dust leap in tiny clouds. From the cliffs around the basin, dozens of delayed echoes answer, except they are not the echoes of the pulse. They are whispers. Some in voices the travelers know, some in voices they should never have recognized. The older envoy steps back. "We leave," he says. His voice is low, urgent, though it still feels as though something in the air is trying to pull the words apart. But the dark-eyed woman remains kneeling. Her palm rests lightly against the curved surface in the spiral's heart. Her eyes are distant, and in the reflection of the strange glassy surface, her face does not move in time with her body. The others call her name, but the calls seem to vanish before reaching her. The second pulse comes louder, slower, and the spiral begins to sink. The spiral does not collapse. It unfolds. The ridges pull away from each other like coiled ribbons unspooling, revealing a wide shaft that drops straight into the earth. The dust is drawn downward in perfect circles, vanishing into the darkness without a sound of impact. A faint amber glow pulses deep within, like a heartbeat far below ground. The dark-eyed woman steps to the edge first, as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. She does not look back at the others, only extends her hand toward the opening, and a narrow ledge emerges from the shaft's wall, spiraling downward into shadow. The others exchange a glance. They do not speak. Speech feels useless here. One by one they follow her, the ledge smooth under their boots, warm to the touch, as though it had been waiting for them. After a long descent, the ledge ends in a vast, circular chamber. The air is warmer here, not stifling, but alive. From the ceiling hang countless threads of pale light, shifting like strands of silk in water. When one of the younger men reaches to touch a strand, his fingers pass through it without resistance, and for a heartbeat, his shadow vanishes entirely. When it returns, it is different. Its shape is slightly taller, its head tilted at an angle he had not moved. The ground is covered in shallow ripples of black stone, each groove etched with symbols no one can read. When the travelers step on them, the grooves emit faint vibrations and voices speak from beneath the surface. The words are not in any known tongue, yet the meaning seeps directly into the mind. It is not a welcome. It is a recognition, a statement that they have been seen before. At the far side of the chamber, the stone bulges outward, as though something behind it is pressing gently against the surface. The shapes are human, but not quite too long in the limbs, too narrow in the faces, as if they had been remembered imperfectly. With each pulse of amber light, the shapes press closer, their outlines sharpening. The wall between them and the travelers is growing thinner. And then, from somewhere deep within the chamber, a slow, deliberate knock. The knock comes again, not hurried, not impatient, but measured, deliberate. 3 beats, then silence. 3 beats again. Deeper this time, as though the sound has shifted closer to the surface. The travelers stand frozen. Only the dark-eyed woman steps forward, tilting her head toward the wall. Her lips move, not speaking, but mouthing something, as if answering a call she has heard before. The bulging wall begins to shift, swelling and contracting like the rib cage of some immense sleeper. Every inhale draws in the chamber's air. The faint strands of light from the ceiling drift toward the wall, vanishing into it. Every exhale pushes a warm wind across the travelers, carrying with it the faintest scent, ancient soil and something metallic. The shapes behind the stone grow sharper, their faces now visible. Eyes too deep, irises too wide, mouths closed yet restless beneath the surface. A single crack appears in the center of the wall, no wider than a hair, glowing faintly amber from within. The vibration in the floor increases, the symbols at the traveler's feet brightening with each pulse. The younger man, the one whose shadow had changed, steps closer without meaning to. When he reaches a crack, the wall inhales sharply, pulling his breath from his chest. For an instant, his outline blurs like a reflection in disturbed water. The dark-eyed woman seizes his wrist, yanking him back. The wall exhales, and the crack widens. The wall shudders once, twice, then splits down the middle. The sound is not of stone breaking, but of fabric tearing after centuries of strain. From the gap, amber light spills like liquid, coating the floor in shimmering ripples. The figures behind the wall begin to emerge. Not walking, sliding forward as though the air itself carries them. Their skin is pale, almost translucent, with veins that shimmer faintly gold. Their eyes are pools of deep color, shifting subtly, like the last light of dusk reflected on water. None of them speak, but the chamber fills with words. Not sound thought, projected into every mind at once. We remember you. The tallest of the beings extends a hand, palm upward, toward the travelers. Not an invitation, not exactly. More like a demand, but one given without hostility. It is as if a bridge has been lowered, and crossing it is not optional. The dark-eyed woman moves first, placing her hand in theirs. When she does, the floor's vibrations cease entirely, and the chamber plunges into stillness so complete it feels like the air has stopped existing. And then, they both vanish. For the dark-eyed woman, there is no sensation of movement, only the sudden replacement of one world with another. The amber light is everywhere, but it isn't coming from a single source. It seeps from the walls, from the floor, even from the air itself. The space around her is neither a cave nor a hall, but something in between, a vast corridor whose surfaces flow and ripple, as though made of molten glass held in perfect suspension. Shapes move within the walls, silhouettes pacing parallel to her, though none ever step into view. The air is warm and heavy, thick with a sweet metallic scent that clings to the back of her tongue. She tries to take a step forward, but the moment her foot leaves the ground, the floor carries her instead, sliding her forward in a slow, deliberate glide. There is no sense of acceleration or weight, yet the scenery shifts around her. The glowing surfaces morph into scenes she half recognizes. A forest of black trees under a blood-orange sky. A ruined tower leaning over a sea that moves without wind. A long, winding street lined with lanterns, each holding a small, sleeping bird. Every image feels impossibly old, like the memory of a dream she once had but forgot to wake from. The silhouettes in the walls grow clearer. Some are human, or at least they were. Their faces are still, yet their eyes follow her with quiet precision. Others are not human. They have too many joints in their limbs, or torsos that narrow into nothing, or faces that seem to wear more than one expression at once. They do not move their mouths, but the hum in the air changes, layering into words she feels rather than hears. You step where few have stepped. Each step costs a piece. Will you pay? Ahead, the corridor bends, and in its curve, faces are still, yet their eyes follow her with quiet precision. Others are not human. They have too many joints in their limbs, or torsos that narrow into nothing, or faces that seem to wear more than one expression at once. They do not move their mouths, but the hum in the air changes, layering into words she feels rather than hears. You step where few have stepped. Each step costs a piece. Will you pay? Ahead, the corridor bends, and in its curve stands a pedestal grown seamlessly from the floor. Resting atop it is a single object, a teardrop of solid amber, perfectly smooth except for the faint shape trapped within. It is a key not of metal, but of shadow, suspended inside the golden droplet like an insect in resin. When she reaches out, the amber is warmer than skin, and the moment her fingers close around it, the corridor exhales. The humming deepens. The walls pulse once, twice, and the silhouettes stop moving entirely. A fissure opens ahead, revealing not darkness, but an impossible horizon, pale gold, stretching forever. The sky hung with three unmoving suns. The corridor begins to pull her toward it, her feet still gliding without touch. Behind her, the silhouettes sink deeper into the walls, vanishing into the amber. One remains the tallest of them, half human, half something older, watching her until the very last instant. Its final thought reaches her, just as she crosses the threshold. Do not turn back, not here. The others do not see her walk into the wall. One moment, the dark-eyed woman stands with her palm pressed to the amber surface. The next, she is simply not there. There is no flash, no sound, only a brief shiver that ripples through the stone underfoot. The chamber falls silent, except for the distant, watery drip that has been echoing since they entered. Even the air feels heavier, as though the room has drawn a deep breath and is holding it. The wall where she stood no longer has its faint liquid shimmer. It is now solid amber, veined with thin strands of dark gold that pulse faintly, almost like veins. One of the others, the man with the scar across his jaw, reaches out to touch it. The instant his fingertips brush the surface, his breath catches. His hand doesn't stick, but he jerks it back as though burned. When he speaks, his voice is low, but the words sound strangely damp, like sound trying to pass through water. She's in there. The longer they stand, the more they notice it, a murmur under the room's silence. At first it seems like the hum of distant machinery, but the cadence is wrong. It's more like whispering, layered over itself 100 times, too fast to understand. One of them, the youngest, her voice trembling, swears she hears her own name woven into it. Another insists he hears nothing at all, though his eyes flick constantly to the walls. Then it happens, a flash in the amber wall, brief as a lightning strike behind glass. In it, they see her, the dark-eyed woman, gliding down a corridor of golden light, surrounded by shapes that should not move but do. She is holding something in her hands, a small, glowing drop with a shadow suspended inside. The vision is gone as quickly as it came, leaving only the wall's dull glow. It is the scarred man who notices first the wall isn't just a wall anymore. The air around it is subtly bending toward its surface, pulling dust motes, loose threads from clothing, even strands of hair. That pull is growing stronger, and they realize with cold certainty that if they stay too close for too long, they'll be taken too. The chamber has no door to leave through. There is only the amber wall and the slow, deliberate hum beneath it. The amber wall ripples, just once. It's not the kind of ripple you see on water. It's more like the glass itself bends for an instant, as though breathing. In that bend, they see her again, the dark-eyed woman, but this time her movements line up exactly with the hum beneath the room's silence. She's turning her head towards something behind her, and at the same moment, in the chamber, the youngest of the group feels an invisible breath on the back of her neck. From inside, her footsteps send faint shocks through the amber, and outside, those shocks tremble in the floor under their feet. When she pauses to look at a towering, root-like column in the golden corridor, the amber wall before them darkens slightly, as if shadowed by the same thing she's seeing. The scarred man realizes with a kind of quiet dread, she's not just in another place. She's moving inside this place. A slow smear of black appears across the wall's surface, letters forming not by carving, but by bleeding through the amber. The words are backward, but as they watch, the shapes rearrange themselves. Do not let it follow. The youngest whispers, let what follow. Before anyone can answer, they see her again closer now, and something just behind her, its shape blurred and constantly changing, as though the amber refuses to hold its form. The hum deepens into a slow, rhythmic pulse. Every time it thuds, the amber swells outward slightly, like the wall is about to give way. They realize it's happening faster now, the wall breathing in. On the other side, the woman is running, the golden light twisting strangely around her, and each step she takes sends a deep echo through the chamber, the sound of two realities brushing together. It happens between blinks. A hairline crack appears in the wall, thin, but blacker than pitch. From inside, a faint, wet tapping sound comes through. From outside, they hear her voice for the first time since she vanished, urgent, breathless, and too close. Don't! The crack widens by the width of a fingertip. The hairline crack moves like a living thing, curling in strange, looping paths, not straight lines. Every time it shifts, a faint shimmer of dust falls to the floor, and the smell changes sharp, metallic, with an undertone of wet stone. Someone steps forward, but the scarred man grabs their arm. Not yet. From within the wall, the woman's face appears again, clearer than before, but she isn't looking at them. Her gaze is fixed upward, following something above her that they cannot see. A slow suction begins, subtle at first, drawing the fine hairs on their arms toward the wall. The crack pulses faintly with each beat of the low hum in the floor. The youngest notices at first a pale, almost translucent fingertip pressing gently against the inside of the crack. The amber bulges slightly around it, resisting but not holding as firmly as before. It's not her hand. The skin looks stretched too tight, and the nail is black, almost hooked. The next sound that comes through isn't the woman's voice. It's softer, like silk being pulled across stone, and yet it carries words. You are already here. No one breathes for a moment. A second crack splits away from the first, meeting it halfway like branching lightning. The amber between the two lines begins to sag inward, as if its weight is no longer supported. The woman's voice cuts through again, louder now, almost shouting, "Step back!" The pale finger withdraws, but something darker stirs just beyond the opening. The amber between the cracks gives way. A jagged, triangular piece falls inward and vanishes into the darkness on the other side without a sound. For a heartbeat, nothing moves. Then a hand slides through. It is far too long, the skin smooth like porcelain, but with faint shifting shadows moving underneath. The fingers bend in too many places. A strange smell hits them. Not rot, not metal, but something alive that hasn't breathed this air in a very long time. The hand touches the edge of the amber and leaves behind a frost-like residue that creeps outward across the surface. The hum in the floor deepens, and the air temperature drops sharply. Their breath becomes visible, curling in slow spirals. The youngest swears they see the shadows inside the hand looking at them. Where the piece fell away, a face emerges, but not the woman's. This face is wider, the features too symmetrical, the eyes glossy and still like glass marbles. It does not blink. It does not breathe. It only smiles. The arm extends further, and a shoulder slips into view, jointed strangely, as if it could fold the other way at any moment. The figure leans forward, pressing half of its head through the opening. The amber groans, cracking more under the pressure. From deep inside, the woman's voice comes again, broken, desperate. Do not let it in. Before its body even fully crosses the gap, the room changes. The air no longer feels like air. It's thick, syrupy, resisting every movement as though they are underwater. Shadows begin to stretch in impossible ways, leaning toward the gap as if being pulled. The lantern light bends, thinning into sharp lines that shiver across the walls. The figure lowers something that might be a foot onto the wooden floor. It lands without a sound. No weight, no creak of timber, yet the boards beneath it swell upward slightly, as if the wood itself is breathing to accommodate the intruder. Where it steps, the frost residue blossoms instantly into elaborate fractal patterns that race outward in slow motion, each crystal twitching like it's alive. It does not simply step through, it unfolds into the room. The amber edge distorts, stretching to let the rest of it pass, its surface rippling like warm wax. The figure's torso seems to reassemble itself mid-step, ribs flexing like the slats of a fan, shoulders rising and settling with no sound. Its proportions shift constantly, too tall, then too short, then unnervingly correct, as if it is testing which shape fits here best. Tudin, the smiling face twists, not by moving its muscles, but by sliding its features across the surface of its head. The mouth moves higher. The eyes pull closer together, then too far apart. The smile never fades, but it changes in meaning from friendly to knowing, from knowing to hungry. Every few seconds, its head jerks, as though it hears something none of them can. Each time it moves, the hum in the room syncs with the movement, like it is connected to everything. It speaks, but not with its own voice. The sound that comes out is theirs. Each of them hears their own voice echoing from its mouth, speaking words they do not understand. The syllables are drawn out and fractured, like listening to a language underwater. The woman behind the amber is shouting now, her words breaking apart under static. "Push it back, it will take the room." The floor tilts, though they are sure they are not moving. The walls start to lean inward slightly, as if the space itself is being reshaped to fit it. One of the lanterns on the far wall stretches upward until it's twice its normal height, the flame flickering in slow motion. A chair in the corner compresses in on itself until it's no bigger than a teacup, yet somehow still looks heavy. The figure tilts its head, smile widening, and takes another silent, weightless step forward. The figure stands still now, not frozen waiting. It tilts its head toward them, as though offering a decision without words. Something in the air makes them understand. One of them can stay. One of them can go. But only one. The tallest among them takes a slow, shaking breath and steps forward. Not because they volunteered, but because their feet move without their consent. The others try to shout, to grab, but their hands pass through the air around him, as though he is already elsewhere. The figure smiles, its mouth stretching just enough to reveal teeth too uniform, too perfect. It places a hand on his shoulder, and the sound in the room drops no hum, no pulse, no breath. The amber light behind them flares, flooding the room with a molten glow. It isn't just light, it's movement, memory, heat. The man begins to fade at the edges, his outline breaking into particles like dust catching the sunlight. At the same time, the woman in the amber, the one shouting warnings, grows clearer, sharper. Her eyes lock with theirs. "Remember the door." The figure's hand tightens. The man is gone. The woman steps fully through now, stumbling onto the warped wooden floor, gasping like someone resurfacing from deep water. Behind her, the amber shrinks, curling inward on itself until it's no bigger than a coin, then nothing. The figure is gone, as though it had never been there. The frost vanishes from the boards. The lantern light stops bending. The hum dies completely. They rush to her, demanding answers, but she only shakes her head. Her voice is calm, but her hands tremble as she speaks. "It will open again. Not here, not now, but it will open." She looks to the place where the amber had been and whispers, almost to herself, "And next time it won't offer a choice." And now, dear listener, we've reached the end. You've walked with me through a place where time seemed to lose its grip, where voices whispered warnings from behind frozen walls of amber, where every step could have been your last, and where choices carried weight far beyond the moment they were made. You stayed until the frost melted, until the hum died away, until the lantern's glow stopped bending and the figure vanished. And that is not a small thing, for in stories like these, endings aren't always offered. Sometimes doors close before we reach them. Sometimes the last piece is lost in the shadows. But tonight, you stayed long enough to see the door shut for yourself. I want to thank you, not as a storyteller speaking to an audience, but as one traveler to another, because that's what you are now. You've walked the uneven floorboards, heard the groan of the timber beneath your feet, felt the thin layer of frost crack beneath your touch. You've heard the hum in your bones and the figure's silent question in your mind. You've been here, and now you carry it with you. You've given me your time, and time, as we've just learned, is the rarest currency. It moves strangely in places like this, sometimes too fast, sometimes slow enough to count the spaces between each breath. You could have been anywhere in this moment, eyes closed in sleep, eyes fixed on another glowing screen, wandering another story entirely. But instead, you chose to be here. To follow this thread into the unknown, knowing it could fray, knowing it could snap, knowing the path might end in silence. That's courage, and I see it. I imagine you now, wherever you are, perhaps curled beneath blankets, the dark softened by the gentle glow of a nearby lamp. Perhaps lying still, phone or tablet resting beside you, the ceiling above you no longer just plaster and paint, but a canvas for everything we've walked through together tonight. Perhaps you're somewhere in the in-between, half here, half dreaming, where my words are no longer words, but shapes, images, impressions that drift through your thoughts, like dust in the amber light. The figure we met tonight may have vanished, but you know as well as I do that it's never really gone. It lingers in the corners of your memory, behind the sound of a closing door, in the moment you feel a sudden drop in temperature with no clear cause. But don't be afraid of it. It isn't always a thing of malice. Sometimes it's a reminder that choices have weight, that some doors only open once, and that when you step through alone. And yet, we are never truly alone in stories. Because here you are, and here I am, and between us is a thread made of shared moments and words. Even if the frost returns, even if the lantern dims, even if the hum starts again, far away. I hope when you close your eyes tonight, you carry not just the shadows and cold, but also the warmth of the firelight that glimmered in that strange place. The sound of footsteps that were not yours, and yet walked beside you. The echo of the woman's words, "It will open again." And maybe, just maybe, you'll dream of where that door might appear next. If you've listened this far, and I know you have, you've given me something invaluable. You've given me your trust. Trust to guide you through unfamiliar corridors. Trust to carry you into the cold and bring you back with all the pieces intact. Trust to whisper in your ear long after midnight, knowing my voice would fade gently into the kind of silence that comforts, not frightens. That trust is the reason I tell stories. And for that, I thank you. Not with rushed words, not with a quick goodbye, but with the promise that I will always keep a door open for you here. Before we part for the night, I ask you, take a moment now, wherever you are, to breathe deeply. In, hold, and out. Let the air around you settle. Let the tension slip from your shoulders. Let your mind drift just enough to feel the softness of sleep begin to reach for you. There is no figure watching you now, no hum in the walls, only the sound of your own breath and the slow, steady rhythm of your heart. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. I'll be here again with another story, another door, another path through the strange and the beautiful. And I hope when that time comes, you'll choose to walk with me once more. Until then, rest, dream well, and remember, doors don't just open out there. Sometimes they open inside. Good night, traveler. And thank you, truly, for walking this road with me.